I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Another day in the House of Representatives as these Maga Republicans hold more hearings. The Democratic members keep on showing the complete and utter disinformation echo chambers that these MAGA Republicans live in. These Democrats are pushing back strong against this MAGA Republican extremism. Here is the Democratic Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, saying these MAGA Republicans are so extreme, they're not hiding it anymore. Exhibit A, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Watch this press conference by Hakeem Jeffries setting the stage for what took place in the House of Representatives. Play the clip.
The extreme MAGA Republicans are showing the American people who they are. They're not even trying to hide their extremism. And Exhibit A is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's totally out of control. But they don't care. The leadership apparently supports Marjorie Taylor Greene. The rank and file Republicans apparently support Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's allowed to lie. She's allowed to debase the institution. Apparently, Marjorie Taylor Greene is even allowed to elevate someone who appears to have engaged in espionage and treason against the United States of America. And it doesn't matter because Marjorie Taylor Greene is the face of this version of the House Republican Conference. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Leader.
I could show you all these clips of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but we've done a lot of other reports on it. But just to remind you, this is when Marjorie Taylor Greene responds to Congressmember Eric Swalwell. And Congressmember Swalwell is just pointing out that the House Judiciary Committee is like, these Republicans are posting these tweets like praising Kanye West and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and asking to defund the FBI. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene responds. She goes, well, you have sex with a spy. I mean, just how ridiculous. Play this clip.
Was kept up for months after Kanye West said that he was going to declare DEFCON 3 on the Jews. Mr. Secretary, do you believe that all of us have a responsibility to elevate our rhetoric and to denounce anti-Semitism and anti-police rhetoric in this country so that Jewish Americans and police officers can be safer?
Congressman, I do.
Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields, and now I recognize the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Greene.
That was quite entertaining from someone that had a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy, and everyone knows it. But
I move to take her words down. Completely inappropriate.
Yeah, stand by just a second while we research the rule. Give me just a second.
I did a whole nother video where Marjorie Taylor Greene actually got disqualified from making further comments at that committee hearing because she so couldn't control her behavior that even the MAGA Republican chair of the Homeland Security Committee, Chairman Greene, said, you're disqualified. By the way, not for making that statement about Eric Swalwell, but for talking about how Secretary Mayorkas, Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, is she said, you're a liar. And then finally, even the Republican chair of the committee had enough of it and was like, okay, you're disqualified from speaking further because of your outbursts. This is Democratic Congressmember superstar Jared Moskowitz. And Jared Moskowitz is pointing out, these MAGA Republicans, really, you're all whining about not getting information from the Biden administration pursuant to your subpoenas. Like, y'all didn't respond to subpoenas. Remember what's taken place? Here, play this clip.
I'm even hearing some of my colleagues say that they can't get information out of this administration. It's ironic when those same colleagues didn't comply with subpoenas, now complain they can't get information. That's the problem with this place. It's not serious. This is no different than COVID. You guys only wanted to talk about COVID under the Biden administration. COVID was a 3-year issue. And so I'll end with this, Mr. Chairman. It was accused that the Democrats don't want to quit Trump. We'll quit Trump when you quit Trump. We look forward in a bipartisan fashion, quitting Trump together. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Dude, Moskowitz is so good. Here's another clip of Congressmember Moskowitz again, superstar Democratic Congressmember freshman from Florida. And here Congressmember Moskowitz says, okay, look, if you want to talk about Afghanistan withdrawal on this oversight committee, let's have a serious conversation. But let's not forget about all the ridiculous hearings you've held so far. And let's also not forget to reflect upon the fact of the historical issues at play. What Trump did, what George W. Bush did. I know you all want to disown George W. Bush now because he says mean things about Donald Trump and you can't handle that. Here, play this clip of Congressmember Moskowitz,
who says it's an important topic. You know, we're 100 plus days into the next Congress. And this committee thought that before we would talk about the Afghanistan withdrawal, they thought it was more important to talk about Twitter first. And not only did they think it was more important than the Afghanistan withdrawal, they thought it was more important to talk about the hiring policies of the Biden administration. They also thought it was more important to talk about a laptop that was found at Radio Shack before the Afghan withdrawal. You know, they thought it was more important to talk about the DC government and public urination before the Afghan withdrawal. And so I know this is a serious topic, but just look at the hearings we've had before this one. And so it's tough for us on this side of the aisle to accept that this isn't a serious hearing. This was a 20-year war. It was started by President Bush. You remember President Bush. I know many of you have disowned him because he disagrees with President Trump. But 4 presidents, 20 years of good decisions, 20 years of bad decisions. You don't want to examine 20 years. You only want to examine like the last week. You know, when marriages dissolve after 20 years and they get in front of a judge, they don't just say, you know, everything was great until the last week of marriage. It's crazy. President Trump invited the Taliban to Camp David around the anniversary of 9/11. What? Like, are there any questions about that? Trump released 5,000 prisoners, many that included terrorists, 5,000 Taliban prisoners, many that included terrorists.
Well, I had to show you this clip. This is the weakest speaker of the House in history, Kevin McCarthy, on the floor of the House of Representatives, as Kevin McCarthy is playing games with the debt ceiling, threatening to, for the first time in American history, cause America to default on its debt, because Kevin McCarthy says he's not going to allow a clean debt ceiling bill to pass in Congress. This is just the gaslighting 101 of Kevin McCarthy saying, oh, it's President Biden and Senator Schumer. They have no right to play politics with the debt ceiling. Play this clip.
President Biden and Senator Schumer have no right to play politics with the debt calling.
And you compare that. This is Congressmember Jamie Raskin of Maryland, and Congressmember Raskin responds to a MAGA Republican who compared January 6th to a tourist visit. Play this clip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a few points about the last contribution from the gentleman from Georgia. Georgia reported 892 murders in the last year, the 4th highest in the country. He says that Washington, D.C. is overrun by violent criminals. The only time I've seen an institution overrun by violent criminals was here in the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, an event that gentleman described as a tourist visit and has consistently likened it to a tourist visit. So I don't know that he's going to be the best and most reliable witness for determining when an institution's being overrun by violent criminals. And the rhetoric I hear from the Freedom Caucus is about defunding the FBI and defunding the ATF. No one on our side of the aisle is talking about defunding any of them or defunding the police. On the contrary, we have advanced initiatives to dramatically increase local government funding for police and other services. And with that, I'm going to yield.
And going back to that hearing, the hearing that was held by the Oversight Committee was trying to blame, by the Maga Republicans who control the Oversight Committee, trying to blame the Biden administration for the withdrawal of Afghanistan. You heard what Jared Moskowitz said, Congressmember Moskowitz, of we need to have a historical, we have to look at the history here of what took place. This is Congressmember Raskin, though, a portion of his opening statement saying, my Republican colleagues refuse to examine the critical issues here. Play this clip.
When we zero in on the final months of the war, my Republican colleagues refuse to examine the elephant on the battlefield, President Trump's disastrous decision to cut out the Afghan government and negotiate directly with the Taliban, and then to enter into a dangerously lopsided agreement with these authoritarian religious fanatics. In the Trump-Taliban agreement, or Doha agreement, Trump struck numerous bad deals and fateful bargains with the Taliban that would come back to haunt us, including the release of 5,000 Taliban fighters from prison, many of whom promptly rejoined the insurgents in their battle to recapture Kabul. Our colleagues have also conveniently ignored President Trump's decision just 4 days after Joe Biden was declared the winner of the presidential election to secretly order the withdrawal of all troops by January 15, 2021, a move that stunned his own military generals, in which Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, called, quote, odd, not standard, and potentially dangerous. After significant pushback, President Trump rescinded his secret order and replaced it with a directive to draw down to 2,500 troops. Months later, when President Trump begrudgingly left Washington under a cloud of bear mace and tear gas, he did so without providing the new administration any plans at all on how to safely withdraw the remaining U.S. troops or how to safely evacuate Americans and our Afghan allies within the strict timeline prescribed by Trump's Taliban agreement. This failure was not an accident, but was calculated to force Biden's hand. President Trump later bragged about this maneuver at a rally with his supporters, stating, I started the process. All the troops are coming back home. They could not stop the process. They wanted to, but it was very tough to stop the process. Trump moved forward with the withdrawal of U.S. troops, even as the Taliban increased violent attacks against the Afghan government and refused to sever ties with terrorist groups, including the Haqqani Network and Al-Qaeda.
Oh, and during the day, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, where all that was going down, he took time to go and speak with the press, and he said, he was asked, so have you found anything illegal while Biden was in office? Because that seems to be what you're focused on, not jobs and education and lowering prescription drug prices, not doing things for the American people, but your whole thing is trying to find crimes that Biden committed. So have you found anything? Play this clip.
So as chairman of the House Oversight Committee, you have been investigating members of Joe Biden's family and their business with the Bidens. Have you found anything illegal while he was actually in office?
Well, we found a lot that's certainly unethical. We found a lot that should be illegal. The line is blurry as to what is legal and not legal with respect to family influence peddling.
Chairman Comer goes, we found a lot that should be illegal. These people are the epitome of fascists incarnate. Here is Congressmember Dan Goldman, who's just trying to finish his statement, and MAGA Republican Anna Paulina Luna interrupts him, and Congressman Goldman's like, "Can you just let me finish what I'm trying to say?" Play this clip.
Is that we have what is clearly politicized oversight, trying to have a gotcha moment against President Biden. But my colleagues on the other side do not support additional support for our veterans. They did not support the PAC Act.
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
I have 20 seconds.
Will you? I can give you some of my time. See, the issue that
finish? Can I
will
just
you
finish? Yield? I will not yield. Let me just finish. And if I could have a little bit more time, Mr. Chairman, you'll have plenty of time to respond, Ms. Luna. The point I'm trying to.
And I want to show you this also again. Let's end with Jamie Raskin. Again, another clip from Jamie Raskin talking about, let's go into how the Trump administration actually worked to pressure the Afghan government. Play the clip.
of, quote, up to 5,000 prisoners by March 10th, 2020. Moreover, your report establishes that the Trump administration actually pressured the Afghan government to agree to this condition. Mr. Sopko, isn't it correct that the Afghan government initially opposed the release of these Taliban and terrorist prisoners?
You're correct.
And how did the Trump administration specifically work to pressure or coerce the Afghan government to agree to this prisoner exchange?
I believe it may have been Secretary of State Pompeo, I believe our report indicates, may have actually threatened funding to the Afghan government. I believe. I'd have to double check.
Secretary Pompeo, according to the report, threatened to withhold U.S. aid.
That's correct.
If they didn't go along with it. So just to get the picture straight, President Trump excludes the Afghan government from the negotiation, takes it upon himself to work directly with the Taliban, then negotiates a provision for the release of 5,000 Taliban fighters, including terrorists. The Afghan government opposes it, and in order to coerce them to go along with it, Secretary Pompeo says he'll withhold aid. The government goes along with it, and then the disaster ensues. Now, obviously, that infusion of thousands of new fighters didn't necessarily make the difference, but it certainly made a pretty big difference. Your report tells a shocking story indeed. I thank you for your service, and I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, there you have it. You know what? I will show. I do want to show you. It's so outrageous. I want to show you Marjorie Taylor Greene's behavior one more time in a different clip. Same hearing where this is her yelling at Secretary Mayorkas and saying, "You're a liar." And then you'll see what took place where the Democrats basically said, look, take down her words. And, and by taking down her words, even the Republicans on the committee disqualified her. Play this clip.
This outrage, complete outrage, where China is poisoning America's children, poisoning our teenagers, poisoning our young people. How long are you going to let this go on?
Congresswoman, let me assure you that we're not letting it go on. We are fighting this.
No, I reclaim my time. You're a liar. You are letting this go on, and the numbers.
Well,
no, obviously.
Actually, I want you to take the words of the speaker down.
So in making a ruling on this, it's pretty clear that the rules state you can't impugn someone's character. Identifying or calling someone a liar is unacceptable in this committee. And I make the ruling that we strike those words.
Sorry, just a point of order, it's a legitimate question.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did you move to take the words down or to strike them, Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, sorry, I just stepped in.
To take them down.
So
that's what we did.
Yeah.
My understanding is if words are taken down, that means that the member can no longer speak in whatever the proceeding is that those words were said.
Personal inquiry, point of personal inquiry.
There's no such thing.
Stand by just a second. House, when we strike, it does terminate the time of the individual who is speaking. So the gentlelady is no longer recognized. The chair now recognizes Mr. Ivey, I believe.
Can I make a point of inquiry, Mr. Chairman?
You can.
So the ruling was that because she used the word liar, that was taken down, which I agree with.
Yes.
But accusing
a statement of fact is very similar to the posters that Mr.
There's no statement of fact.
There's no statement of fact.
Bullshit.
There's no factual basis for the statement.
We're not here to debate this, okay? And the ruling was made by the chair that these previous words were not against the rules of Clause 1 and Clause 4 of Rule 17. But to tell someone that they are a liar is... It's pretty clear in the rules.
Slander is clearly covered by the rules.
Yeah, so Marjorie Taylor Greene got banned from the rest of that committee hearing because of her outrageous conduct. You go back to the very beginning of this video, it's precisely what Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries was saying. This extremism is not what America is about. This is not normal. behavior for anyone, yet alone an adult, yet alone a congressperson. It is embarrassing. It is humiliating. And that's why we need to call it out. This isn't a both sides issue. This is a issue of who the Republican Party has become today. As Hakeem Jeffries says, this is who they are. It's sad. It's sad. I'd like there to be actual intelligent conversation, even there are people who I disagree with. I'd like there to be intelligible adult conversation. Anyway, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. We are on our way to 1.5 million subscribers thanks to your incredible support. So please hit subscribe. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch as well. patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Wherever you get your audio podcast, search for MeidasTouch Podcast too. All right, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.